The countdown has begun. College football's new playoff is coming into view. The name for the new postseason? The College Football Playoff. You can't get more straightforward than that.
Auburn and Florida State go head-to-head for the BCS championship. Just a few days' time, marking not just the end of a season, but the end of an era in college football. Joining me now to explain is sports reporter Ben Cohen. Ben, this is the last year of the BCS, right?
The end of an era.
Yeah.
It's the end of the BCS world as we know it. That's right. After 15 years, maybe a little bit longer, the BCS model, the long maligned, controversial bowl championship series system is out this year. This is the last year. It will be replaced next year by the 4-team college football playoff, which adds a few wrinkles to the end of the college football season.
Yeah. Now, does this mean anything for Auburn or Florida? I mean, whoever wins, is there any kind of asterisk that will now be applied to this because of the? I mean, how does that work?
No, there's no asterisks involved with Auburn or Florida State this year because these are the two best teams, and these are the teams that would have been in the playoff next year. There are some years when there might have been a little bit of an asterisk, when there were 3 or 4 teams challenging for the national championship. And in fact, if Ohio State hadn't lost in the Big Ten Conference championship this year, and Auburn had been on the outside of the national title looking in, then the BCS would have ended in controversy again this year. But because Ohio State lost, and because there was one undefeated team from a power conference and one one-loss team that was clearly above everyone else, this was one of the few years that ended in harmony for the BCS, which is an interesting way for the system to go out.
Yeah. So okay. So next year we're going to get the playoffs, 4 teams, 2 semifinal games, a final game. Is that really going to squelch this kind of thing that you were just discussing? Kind of thing where because you're still having a committee, right? You have a committee pick the 4 teams. Will there still be some of that controversy? Is this a true playoff system?
In a way, the controversy will probably be with the 4 teams that the committee chooses. Now, in some years, there are 4 teams that are head and shoulders above everyone else in college football. In some years, there aren't. So whoever that committee picks will certainly be the source of some controversy. In the same way that the NCAA tournament committee leaves some teams out every year. Now, the difference between that is it's a 68-team field rather than a 4-team field. So there will be some controversy, but at the end of the day, if you're not one of the 4 best teams in the country, what right do you really have to be challenging for the national title? So usually what we've seen in the last 15 years is that there are 2 or 3 or 4 teams that can challenge for the national championship at the end of the year. And when there are 3 or 4, that's when the 2-team system has been a problem. So now that you're expanding to 4, and let's be honest, a lot of people expect this to expand to 8 and 16 teams in the next few years too. So that might mitigate some of the controversy as well.
Ben, last question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Wall Street Journal sports reporters, do they like the playoff system or no?
I think a lot of us think that it's better than what we have now, that this isn't necessarily the most fair system. But you also have to remember some of the excitement surrounding the last few weeks of the college football season, especially this year, was the result of it being a 2-team system. So this year, Auburn sneaks into the national championship in the last game of the last weekend when Ohio State loses. Next year, Auburn would have been in the 4-team playoff as soon as it won the Southeastern Conference. So I think there are some pros and cons, but overall, it's probably a good thing for the sport.
All right, Ben Cohen, good stuff. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.